All right, OLR exclusive fans, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM. We have none other than Bernard Robichaud right here, right now on the air. A very talented actor, Trailer Park Boys, Haven, and many films as well. How are you doing this evening? This afternoon.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You are most certainly welcome, man. Like I've been a fan of your role as Cyrus for many, many years. So just thank you so much for just providing us with your time.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
You're most certainly welcome. So I have to ask you, Bernard, how did you get into acting in the first place?
Uh, a little long story. Modeled for a while. Went to meet an agent in Toronto. Couldn't use me. Thought I would have been better served as being an actor. And basically went back home and continued doing what I was doing. Started getting a little bit of trouble on the weekends, but drinking too much and fighting. And a buddy of mine thought that I would end up in a lot worse situation if I didn't find an outlet to express myself other than getting the fights on the weekends. And he suggested I try acting school.
And also, in the year '94, you were in a film called Life with Billy. I have to ask you, tell us a bit more about that role, and is that movie actually, is that television show actually out on the internet for individuals to actually watch?
Yeah, Life with Billy, that was a number of years ago. Based on a true story. It was a Salter Street production, and the Donovan brothers did it. So, a small role, but it was kind of a poignant part of the movie where she was complaining that her husband was abusing her, and I think it was just at that point a lot of people didn't believe her, and so that's kind of where the part that I played was instrumental in kind of showing that even the grocery store clerk didn't believe her and wasn't impressed with her and how she was handling the situation with her husband.
So was that actually one of your first roles, or was that like a few movie or TV shows in?
No, that was one of my very first roles, actually.
It's actually really cool. Like I actually watched a little bit of that, and it's actually you did very very well in that role.
Thank you. It was short and sweet, though.
And also, skipping ahead a little bit, in 2009, you also played the role as Stanley in a television movie called Blue Seduction. I have to ask you, you tell us a bit more about that particular movie, and what was it like actually just playing that role?
Blue Seduction, yeah, with myself, with Stella Warren and Billy Zane. Yeah, Billy was a very giving actor, so it was a lot of fun working with him. I just played a character by the name of Stanley, who was basically Billy Zane's manager, and yeah, it was. Just a management role, and Billy's best friend and manager. So was his confidant, and so a little bit different than what I'm normally used to playing. Wasn't the bad guy role.
Most definitely. And also another amazing role that I really enjoyed watching you in was Haven, which is actually a phenomenal television show. You actually were in Haven alongside fellow Trailer Park Boy actors Shelley Thompson and the late great John Dunsworth. I have to ask you, what was it like working with them on that television show, and how did that role come to be for you?
I didn't. I don't remember being on the set with Shelley at any one time. Certainly in those episodes, but I definitely was on the role on with John. But John and I have known each other for about 35 years, John was actually my first my acting coach when I went to university. So we've known each other for a long time. I got the role because I auditioned for it and that was pretty much it. Yeah, there wasn't any no big secrets about that. I auditioned for a role, Kirk. I can't remember Kirk's last name, to be honest with you, because we never really used it. I was really more on the byline of the series, but not a bad guy role, but that was a lot of fun to play. A recurring role in a couple of seasons. Yeah.
And before we move off on the topic of Haven, like as everybody knows, John Dunsworth is Mr. Leahy. Can you actually tell our listeners a little bit more about John? Like, what was John like? Like, obviously, as a human being. That way, individuals can also remember him as who he was, rather than just Leahy.
Yeah, John was a very giving man. He was a great actor, so he was just a lot of fun to work with. Very spontaneous as well. Just a guy that you'd want to be around on set, just because from an actor's point of view, he was, it was easy to ad lib with him. So he just, John was a very giving actor, very giving man. But that's the only time I only really saw John was on set, whether it was Trailer Park Boys or Haven. So I mean, it's not that we hadn't worked on a lot of other projects in the past, but those two projects certainly bring to mind. I mean, John was always. John was there for me, especially after I had the third movie I had done. The third movie on a full leg cast. They had just ruptured my quad, muscles, and so when they put back together, I did the third movie in a full leg cast, and still was recovering during the next season when the boys took over for season 8. So he was there to make sure I wasn't doing anything too crazy that was going to put me in harm's way. Some of the things that Cyrus had to do in as far as most of my stunt work, I think I would have done, but it's always good to have somebody there that was just making sure everybody was safe, and John certainly did that for me.
He most definitely sounds like a phenomenal individual. Rest in paradise to the late great John Dunsworth for sure.
Yeah, I know, it's good man.
And also, one of my good friends, Talk to the Mike Laundry, actually told me that you are a really huge golf fan. I have to ask you, what made you decide to get into that sport, and like, have you ever took part in any tournaments?
I did a bunch of tournaments back home in New Brunswick and some in Nova Scotia. Just been competitive for mid-amateur titles. I never won any of them, but I got into it because hockey and basketball it's hard to recuperate from those after a while, playing them all my life. So it was just easier on the body, and I think from an athlete's point of view, you're always looking for ways to perfect something and to be better. And there was one sport that I got hooked because I realized it was going to be very difficult to perfect. And I was in a situation, bringing up my daughter when she went to school. I had time that I was able to
Hey, man, if it's something you love to do, it's something you love to do. There's no use in stopping it.
That's right, buddy.
So I have to ask this: how did you land the role of Cyrus in the Trailer Park Boys?
Just got a call one night from Barry Dunn saying that he and Mike wanted me to audition for this role for the series. I had seen the original movie with Barry, um, and there was no guarantee. Can you come down and or see Mike? That was Friday night. Can you come down and see Mike on Saturday? And spend about 45 minutes on camera with Mike. He just, really wasn't really an audition per se. There wasn't any lines. He just wanted to freewheel it. So he captured what he wanted to capture. They sent that tape off to Alliance Atlantis and showcase. And Monday they called me up and told me I had the role. So it wasn't just lucky. There was other people in line in Toronto that they were looking at for the role, or at least Alliance Atlantis was at the time, and they decided that Mike and Barry had made a better choice than what they had. So that's how I got it.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I've been watching the Trailer Park Boys since the beginning in 2001, and I have to say this: I cannot picture anybody else playing your role. Like when you said there's other people ahead of you, I really can't picture it because like at the end of the day, there's only one Cyrus, and that is you, Bernard.
Well, thank you, man.
You're most certainly welcome. When you said this freestyle and that this question just popped in my head. Like when you guys were on set, did you guys actually have scripts, or did sometimes like you guys just go overboard and just kind of like go off script, and they actually kept it within the show?
There was a lot of ad libbing in the show. There's no doubt about that. Mike Clattenburg was very giving when it came to to that whole thing, and I think it worked out. And for the show, it certainly made the show what it was. I think we went with scripts by third season. I think we had scripts, but we were still allowed to ad lib. There was a little tighter rein because we needed to make sure we weren't losing a lot of time on set. But Mike was still there and very giving as a director and producer and writer. To allow us to do a little bit off the cuff. But we usually set that up prior to going in front of the camera. Unless something came to Mike at the time and said, let's try it this way. And so, that was really more the genius of Clattenburg and maybe not so much the genius of the actors involved.
And as we all know, like you took part in every single season, but I have to ask you, what was it like behind the cameras of the Trailer Park Boys? Like, what is your most memorable moment of just being on set?
Season 5, chasing me and the Flappy Bird brothers chasing Bubbles on the go-kart, and the go-kart cable breaking in that scene, and looked like Mike was going to stop when it fishtailed the go-kart, and the go-kart just sped up again when the cable snapped and drove into a lilac bush and shot Mike head first into the bush, which was pretty hilarious. Fortunately, he was wearing that hockey helmet, and so he just kind of jumped out of the bush and started his line. So that wasn't used in the thing. I don't know if it's in the DVD and the outtakes or anything, but it certainly was. It was certainly shot, and it was pretty hilarious. That's probably my most memorable part. I mean, there's lots of memorable parts. I mean, but it's certainly one of the ones that I wasn't in the scene. I was actually watching him drive in during that time. So even though it looks like we're chasing him into the park.
And as we all know, the Trailer Park Boys animated series just released season 2 not too long ago. I have to ask you, what was it like going from playing Cyrus as like a real life character to going into voice acting? Like, was it a different transition for you?
Not really. I mean, I've played the character for 20 years, so it's pretty hard to kind of go for it to be any different. My voice and the boys are generally are on the other end of the phone with me, so they read the lines that are there, and I respond to the lines, and if they like it, we move on. If we don't, we try to 2 or 3 different ways so that they've got enough enough material to work with when they go to edit it for the animated Cyrus. So it's not really that not really very difficult. Takes a whole lot less time, obviously. So it's amazing that you could do 17 pages in less than an hour. So it's a totally different thing.
Most definitely true, and a lot of people don't really like the animated series. I have to say, it's different. You guys can do so much more with the animated series than you can. For instance, in the first season, Jacob and you know what I mean. Jacob had his neck twisted around. You can't do that like with real people. So it gives you guys more leeway and more content that you guys can create.
Yep, no doubt about that. That's right.
And one thing I've always wondered is because the Trailer Park Boys, is Canadian, and a lot of stuff is really hard to come out of Canada. I have to ask you, Bernard, when did you really notice that Trailer Park Boys went worldwide?
Um, I don't know that I really noticed it at all. More people around me saying that it was how popular it was. I think we were all a little stunned by its popularity, and the way it took off after season 3. So, and that's good for us. I mean, but I don't know that any of us really thought it was going to do what it did. Grateful that it did, though. I mean, it put us all on the map, that's for sure, and it opened up a whole lot of doors for many of us. It's made things a little easier when it comes to getting work, or at least being recognized for the work that you've done. So that's um, like I said, very grateful for that opportunity and the way things worked out.
And the one thing that a lot of people have been asking me since I set this interview up, everyone has been talking about, is there going to be regular Trailer Park Boys seasons again? I was just wondering, like, are you guys going to be doing that, or are you guys just going to be sticking with the animated series?
Yeah, I really can't comment on that one. That's really got nothing to do with me. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that would like to see that happen, but I mean, whether or not it does, um, I know that they have another series that they've produced recently. I wasn't involved in that, and I guess they'll see how that goes, and their animation and everything else they've got going on with their franchise. It's there's a lot to take in, and whether or not they move forward and create more characters or bring back any of them to continue with Trailer Park Boys. I don't know. I mean, I'm certainly that I'm sure it's viable, but that's not for me to say, or whether or not they're interested in doing that or not.
It's completely understandable. I just wanted to ask because a lot of people were asking me to put that in the question lineup. But I have to say, though, I think the animated series is actually better, and I know a lot of people are probably going to attack me for this, but it's also their way to help keep, John Dunsworth and Mr. Leahy alive in it, because in real life you can't really put a cartoon character in the TV show, right? So I think it's a good way. That way you can still have Leahy's legacy going.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think that was one of the great things about the animated series. So yeah, I'm happy to see John's character is still alive in animated life. You know, it's kind of cool. It's a little weird seeing yourself, I think, in cartoons, but it's you know it's I don't know. I've had lots of people think pretty cool to be living on in animation. So hopefully it'll continue to long after I'm gone too. So we'll see.
And I have to ask you, is there any any other projects you're currently working on aside from the Trailer Park Boys that you want to promote and let people know to actually check out?
Yeah, I'm involved in like I just got I was just asked about doing voiceover for another animated series, maybe two more animated series yesterday. I'm waiting for some paperwork on that this week. I can't really talk about any of the things. I've got three more TV series, one web series, two other TV series, one with HBO, one with Amazon Prime. But they're on my IMDb page. That's about all I can tell you about those, just because of non-disclosure agreements that are it's pretty common now, even for auditions. Can't really talk about anything that you're doing anymore, just because social media and everything else has really put a damper on that, and people, producers in particular, and I get it, don't want anything released about the idea of or characters in certain projects before they have a chance to send out trailers and look for funding. So,
And that is completely understandable because the internet is like horrid sometimes. They really just don't keep anything a secret. They'll like launch anything. So that's good though. By the sounds of it, you got a lot going on for you. So everybody that's listening, make sure you stay tuned.
yeah, I mean, the future's promising. I never get too ramped up in any of this stuff until all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. Anything can happen. So, but to know that there's that much kind of on the horizon. Hopefully, one or two of those things will work out. So, if they all work out, that's great too. But I try not to get too excited about that until the contracts are signed. Now, I've done that in the past, and it always seems to have jinxed myself for stuff like that. So we'll just see how it goes. You know.
And the last question that I have, you can skip this one if you like. But I was wondering, I have to ask this: is there anything that Cyrus would like to address the Trailer Park Boy listeners that are listening right here live on the air?
No, but there's anything. Cyrus would just say, safety always off. Fuck off! I got work to do.
Hell yeah, I gotta say, that's one of your most famous lines, and I think that's most popular, man. Most definitely. Fuck off, you got work to do.
Yeah.
So, if you can, would you be able to just toss our listeners your social handles? That way they can actually shoot you a follow and stay updated on not just the Trailer Park Boys, but also everything else that you currently do.
Sure. They can follow me on Twitter at Bernie Robichaud. Facebook, I'm on there, of course, as Bernard Robichaud. There's all kinds of pages and everything else, but you can find me there. Instagram, Bernard Robichaud as well. Look up my IMDb page. It always helps bring the ratings up, or the rankings. So, yeah, I mean, I try to, if they're looking for, I do some cameos from time to time for people for their birthdays, that sort of thing. So they can always find me through that as well. But, I try to answer their emails when they come in from through the social medias, as long as they're not too ridiculous, like I get a lot of knock jokes, and people want me to tell them to fuck off. I got work to do, but so if I have the time, I do, and a lot of times it gets kind of a little old.
It's understandable.
Yeah, but I do what I can, and if I get legitimate questions, then yeah, I don't mind if they're taking the time to ask me something legitimate. I often answer those questions.
I do want to say, Bernard, just thank you so much for providing me with your time. Aside from interviewer, I got to say thank you so much for years, and I mean years of amazing entertainment.
Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you, like I said, thank you for having me on. Very kind of you to consider me, and don't hesitate again at some point.
Most definitely, I agree. But like I said, thank you so much. I started watching in 2001. Amazing show. Got to say this for a fact. Helped me get through many dark times. So thank you.
Yeah, it's always nice to hear when that's been the case. I've heard that many times. It's always very humbling.
I do want to say thank you so much again, and most definitely be safe during this terrible pandemic. And I hope down the road we can most definitely make this happen again.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Thank you so much,
Hey,
Bernard. Oh, pardon, sorry about that.
my pleasure. No, my pleasure, man. Anytime.
You're most certainly welcome. Have yourself a wonderful day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.